Hey guys, Disney Child here. So I went to go see Zootopia 2 with my little bro and my boy friend. Since Zootopia was one of the first movies I ever watched in theaters, which to all the Helloverse fans who are resorting to character attacks because they have no solid counter arguments to my criticism of the show, that's an indication of how old I am. Anyways, I decided to watch the sequel for nostalgia's sake, and I gotta say that I wasn't disappointed. So I wanted to give my thoughts on it because it's been a month since my last upload and I need something out. The one notable positive thing I can say about the movie is I think that the animal racism messaging was handled better in the second film, because from what I remember from the first film, the racism messaging was literally just a reskin of human racism, which doesn't work on a fundamental level because animals have existed way longer than humans, so the genetic differences are way greater no matter what the white supremacist on your timeline says. In the second film, they do acknowledge those differences, but say that that doesn't justify discrimination because we're all animals at the end of the day, which still isn't that great because ecosystem and all, but it makes more sense. Another positive thing about the movie is that it kind of fixes the predator dominance in Zootopian society of the first film by having more prey animals in higher positions of power. The mayor of Zootopia is now a horse, and a couple of the new recruits for the police force are also prey animals, like a mouse and two zebras and a bunch of animals that I can't remember on top of my head. It's still not enough considering how Zootopian society props up itself to be an egalitarian society, but it's a start. The last positive thing that I want to note about this movie, which a lot of people find a negative, but I don't, is the fact that Jude and Nick still stay friends by the end of the film. A lot of people refer to their dynamic in this movie as straight baiting, and my honest reaction to that sentiment is you guys just be saying anything. I get that Disney movies are going through a romance drought right now, but that doesn't mean you guys should project your frustration on these characters, since this logic ignores the fact that intimate platonic relationships are a very real thing. They are just as common as romantic relationships and deserve more representation in media, especially with characters of the opposite gender, because it's about time that we stray away from the stereotype that girl and guy friendships always end up romantic. And that's all the positive things I have to say about this movie, because it's Zootopia. Of course it was going to be a near flawless film, so I'm not going to spend a whole 10 minutes glazing it. My first criticism towards this movie is the comedy. I get I'm not the target demographic and I'm very picky when it comes to comedy, but certain jokes in this movie just felt like low-hanging fruit. Like sometime earlier in the movie, Nick tells a yo mama joke in Big 2025. There is a lot of adult humor in this movie, which some people have criticized for the inappropriate nature, but I don't care because I see this as them acknowledging that a huge portion of their watcher base are adults, and the kids won't get it anyways, and if they do, it's the parents' fault for letting them have access to such material. My main problem with the comedy is the timing, since one too many times a comedic scene happens right after a serious one, and I get again that it's a kids movie, but most kids aren't drug addicts. They can handle a couple of moments to let the serious scene set in before cracking another joke, because these scenes lessen the impact of the serious ones. I remember towards the end of the movie when it started being more serious, my friend was facepalming hard at the serious scenes, and not gonna lie, I was cringing a little bit too, and I bet me, him, and many other people wouldn't have felt that way if the movie took itself a little more seriously. Which ties into my next critique, which is that the stakes felt less high compared to the last film. From my recollection, the matter is arguably darker. I saw a comment comment under Shafrela's review of the movie saying that the snake character felt less compelling compared to the otter from the first film, and I couldn't agree more. This can be mostly attributed to the fact that the snake character spends too much of his screen time being a comedic sidekick. This feels like a lesser Elio. The difference is at least Zootopia's 2's tone was consistent since the first teaser, which makes the subject matters they choose to discuss with it interesting, to say the least. I know it's a kids movie, but the demographic of kids this movie is targeted towards are old enough to handle the discussion of colonialism and displacement in more depth. I mean, in the first movie, even though they did hold back a bit, it didn't completely shy away from showing the dark realities of racism without cracking jokes every other second. This movie feels like the Disney Overlord leash was on tighter. Since the villains in this movie are so borderline comically evil, it pisses me off. Like, if it wasn't bad enough that we get evil rich family, but we also get evil twist villain son of rich family. Then they had the audacity to make a self-aware remark about it as if that makes it any better. Not to mention that this guy Pawbird just sucks. He makes the sheep lady look god tier in comparison. He's definitely one, if not the worst Pixar villain so far, and the worst villain in the Zootopia franchise, which says a lot. Like, the bar was already in hell and they managed to go lower. His motivation of wanting to be accepted by his family is so cliche that it's pathetic. That's not surprising considering that if the rich villains had any sort of complexity, it would mean they wouldn't bear the sole responsibility for the oppression of the reptiles, which brings me to my next problem with the film. Zootopia is a pro-cop propaganda, since it promotes the myth that the problem with the police isn't the system, but bad cops. The second film somehow makes this already horrible message even worse by resetting the status quo by making the reformed police force cave quickly to the demands of the evil rich people to help them cover up their crimes against the reptile population. They also make the police force purposefully pathetic by having them be manipulated and basically held at gunpoint to help when in reality they would have been willing participants, so they can remove agency from them to push the bad actors narrative about the problems of the police system. This is a malicious simplification of the topic at hand. Since Nick and Judy both get ousted as traitors to the force for wanting to help the snake guy tell the real origins of the founding of Zootopia, they could have easily have this movie critique how the police hunts down progressive activists because they don't function to bring justice but uphold the status quo for the elites. But no, they just throw all the blame on the de facto villain so they can keep pushing the good cop agenda. Since we're on the topic of messaging, I feel it's appropriate to bring up Zootopia's 2's handlement of the topics of colonialism and displacement and oppression stealing from the oppressed. I think if we ignore the amount of comedy and the blandness of the villains, they handle these topics decently. The scene where Judy uncovers the truth of the fanging incident made me emotional. But it's so hypocritical coming from Disney, who has done or supported all those things. I know there's going to be people who are going to be typing in the comments something along the lines of, "You're one to taunt, you literally gave Disney your money by watching the movie in theaters." And my honest reaction to that is, this is such a disingenuous argument because most of the people who I have seen use this gotcha argument are either Disney simps or general bootlickers for corporations. So it doesn't matter if I watched or didn't watch the movie legally because these individuals will find some way to still defend Disney. So, boring. Next. Well, that's all the ranting I wanted to do for today. I apologize if I came off extra cynical with my critiques than usual, since I have been taking a film studies class for the past 5 weeks, so I have been picking apart movies like never before. Plus, I have been watching back-to-back peak in that class, so watching Zootopia 2 after all that high was jarring. I apologize for going back on my promise for a once every 2-week upload schedule. I was prioritizing schoolwork because I don't want to end up working in fast food for the rest of my life. I promise that I will try to be as consistent as I can. At minimum, you'll get an upload once every 2 weeks, and at maximum, once every month. My next upload will be an introduction to my channel so you guys can have an understanding of what my channel is. So if you're interested in that, make sure to subscribe. Thank you guys for all the support I've been getting as of late. We're officially halfway towards 100 subs. Woo! I love you guys from the bottom of my heart. Okay, bye.